In your KVUE Crime Files, we go back to the year 1975. Austin was known as a relatively small, safe college town with a population that was roughly 1/10 of what it is today. But that close-knit community of the mid-70s was rocked by the news of a young woman who was stabbed to death in her South Austin apartment. Nearly 50 years later, that murder is still unsolved. Now, we do want to warn you, some of these images you're about to see are graphic. February 10th, 1975. It was a typical Monday morning for Phyllis and Juan Butto Jr. The couple lived in a South Austin apartment just off Bannister Lane in Unit 109. Phyllis was the apartment manager. Juan worked as an airman at Bergstrom Air Force Base.
Phyllis's husband left for work at 7:30 in the morning. He said that Phyllis usually gets up with him, they have coffee, and then she goes back to sleep and usually wakes up around 9.
What happened over the next few hours has puzzled police for decades.
Someone has to know about this. Since 1975, no one's come forward with any kind of information.
Austin Police Detective Travis Bethard says at 12:30 p.m., Juan came home to have lunch with Phyllis. He pulled into the parking lot of the apartment building and happened to run into his brother Mike, who lived in the same complex. Together, they walked into the apartment and discovered Phyllis's body.
She's just, laying on the floor next to the bed, wearing only her socks.
She had been stabbed multiple times in the neck, chest, and back. Police believe she had been sexually assaulted.
And I saw some of the pictures, and those pictures have haunted me ever since.
Phyllis's older sister, Cynthia, was still living in Tyler, their hometown.
Just knowing the pain that she had to be in, and we weren't there to take care of her.
Cynthia immediately rushed over to check on her parents.
I went in the house, and Preacher was there, and some neighbors across the street, and Mother and Daddy they were just in shock. And they just sat there and stared at people.
While family was grieving in Tyler,
Yeah, that's the front door of the apartment.
Investigators in Austin were busy searching for suspects. They say the apartment didn't seem to be ransacked, which would indicate there was no burglary, and no weapon was found. But they do believe the murder was committed with a knife with a small blade. Investigators also believe Phyllis knew the attacker. Her neighbors didn't notice anything out of the ordinary.
They didn't hear any screams, didn't hear a disturbance happening.
A tenant told police around 9 or 9:30 in the morning. She knocked on Phyllis's door to ask about an issue in her unit.
She said that the door was slightly cracked, wouldn't close all the way. She could hear a stereo playing in the apartment, but she said she knocked several times, no one answered, and so she would just come back every 30 minutes.
Another 3 times, still no answer. And without answers all these years later, Phyllis's family has yet to find closure.
She was learning how to sew, and she had made a dress that she was really proud of. That's what we buried her in.
In South Austin, Yvonne Nava, KVUE News. Detectives tell me they are in the process of retesting evidence using state-of-the-art DNA testing. Coincidentally enough, a year after Phyllis was murdered in June of 1976, a very similar crime happened in Austin. 25-year-old Martha Reed was fatally stabbed. Both Martha and 21-year-old Phyllis, well, they died the same way. Both had airmen for spouses, and both were managers of South Austin apartment complexes. Neither case has been solved. They just don't have the forensic evidence to prove anything. Anyone with any information is encouraged to contact Crime Stoppers at the number on your screen anonymously, I might add, 512-472-TIPS or 847.